Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. Trying to get the camera somewhat steady there. Alright, we're taking a look at Black Seas from Warlord Games. Now, just so folks know, I did pay for this. This wasn't sent by Warlord Games. I was hoping that they would send me something, but they never reached back. So I'm hoping one day if I film enough Warlord stuff, they'll send me some products for review. So this is actually paid for by me because I was very excited. Why Age of Sail? Well, one, because I just have such a wide interest of hobby. I find it very hard to just stick with only one game or one genre. I like to try it all. And I was looking through Facebook and people were posting pictures of their little Age of Sail ships with the sails and the rigging and everything. And I've always thought that was cool. And I've also thought that was very difficult to do, and the ships are small and everything like that. And sure enough, I then saw that Warlord Games was putting out Black Seas. This was a few months ago. And a friend of mine then, who I game with, he sent out the text saying, hey, we're going to be playing either ESR Napoleonics, or we can do an Age of Sail game. And it was like everything was coming together to say to me, Eddie, go play an Age of Sail game. So I went and played Age of Sail with him, and his rule set was really cool. Kind of one of those complicated ones, but it was like Heart of Oak, I think. Had a great sailing rules, and the ships were really cool that he put together. And I said, okay, I'm in it. But I need something that is local, easy for me to get. There's a lot of companies you can order from, Figurehead Miniatures and some other companies. But a lot of them are based out of England, and then you have to find a US distributor, and then like GHQ makes them, but they're small and they're expensive. And Black Seas, it was like, you know what? They're plastic for the most part. I think the expansion ships are a mixture of resin and pewter and whatnot. But like these starting sets were like all plastic. And I was like, you know, I can do plastic. And even though they're a scale that's bigger than I'd say like the traditional a lot of times is like 1/2400, and there's 1/1200, and they're kind of these smaller scales. So 1/700 is not a common scale that I've seen so far for Age of Sail. So that would make these ships kind of big on the table. However, they're still kind of small. So I think a 6x4 table is still going to be plenty of room to play. So with that, that's why I'm trying the Age of Sail, and I'm trying the starter set because that'll give me a variety of some ships to play with. Kind of figure out, you know, how to build them. And here's inside. It's got all the thread to work on my rigging skills. The other thing, pro tip, I'm going to try. My friend, he did not thread rig anything. What he did was he got a broomstick and he cuts off the, you know, the sweeper part, the plastic, you know, on the bottom. And he uses those as the rigging. So he cuts it to length, glues it in place, and then boom, you don't have to thread nothing. But it still looks like rigging. So thread, I'm going to try. And I liked this. I thought it was cute. They've included some of the fiery smoke and fire cotton for you already. So that will save me having to go find my cotton that I may or may not have. So already you got cotton for smoke effects and fire effects. Well, yeah, that's the other thing too, because then also the Little Wars TV, I'm jealous of those guys. They put out a really, really slick production of videos compared to what I do. But they did a Trafalgar game with a completely different set of rules and smaller ships, but they made really cool gun firing markers where they took like, they have a tutorial on how to do it, but anyway, it's like a little Christmas light thing. It has like 3 lights that go in sequence, and then they cover it with the cotton, and then lay it next to the ship when it shoots, and it looks like the cannons are, it's very cool. So cotton. Anyway, then we got dice, 10-sided dice and a couple 6-sided dice. The dice are used at different ranges, which is fine. It kind of made me think of Star Wars Armada, where you have the different colored dice that represent different ranges, but then they have different symbols for how accurate and how well you shoot. So this will be just 10-sided dice on charts, compare your rolls to see how well they hit, and the blues represent the different damage types of guns. So yeah, it should be alright. And then a couple 6-sided dice. And when it's a Warlord game of miniatures, well, that's the important part, is the models, the miniatures. So I don't know if these are labeled for me. Warlord, no. This is a frigate. Yes, there it is. Black Seas Napoleonic frigate. So I have 2 frigates. Now, I'm not going to do a super in-depth model review. I'm just showing you what's in the box. However, I am going to later do a model assembly video, and we can talk about specifically what you get on the sprues. So just to move this out of the way a little bit so it's easier to see this one sprue, I do have 2 sides for the hull, and it's like, looks like, I can't tell if they connect at the bottom. Looks like they might connect, but this will sit down in the hull a little bit. So if I pick the ship up, it might not have a bottom. So it's going to have a deck, 2 sides, some back pieces, masts. I'm fine that this is all plastic. I'm actually scared to mess with the resin and the pewter of the larger ships they have. So dealing with these all plastic is fine because I build lots of plastic miniatures. So you got 2 sprues for a frigate. And this is great because a lot of games, if even beyond Black Seas, if you use these for other games, a lot of games start with basic rules of like one frigate versus another frigate. In fact, when I played that Heart of Oak with my friend, it was a 1 frigate versus a frigate from a War of 1812 scenario. So that's perfect start. So 2 frigates. This one is labeled brigs. Okay, so a little bit smaller ships. Do I have, this is looks like 2 brigs, 2 sprues of brigs, and is that 3 sprues of brigs? Is this another frigate? Okay, so I got 3 frigates, 3 sprues of a frigate. Looks like there's 1 frigate per sprue, and then 6 brigs, 3 sprues of with 2 brigs each. So that gives you a sampling of ships to start with. And that is one thing, unless you do like a really large battle, Trafalgar or something of that nature, you don't need a whole lot of ships. That's kind of the cool thing about naval wargaming. Depending on the rules that you play, you don't need a lot. And this will actually provide a lot of play because not only will you have the scenarios from the box itself, but again, like if you just go on the internet, look up some battles that happen, you can find a lot of small engagements that took place in reality. So a lot of gaming in the box. Here's the assembly instructions for the frigate. And there you go, the brig on the back. Great. They don't look overly complicated, but it is nice that and the instructions look pretty good too. So this will be fine. We'll assemble a ship, no problem. Here's the bits and pieces bag, and yep, it's one of them little self-adhesive bags, so all of this ought to just pop right out. Probably won't go back in the same way. We have data cards. Now, the ship cards, just from what I've seen other people play, the red represents like some agility. So when you use the turning template, you know, red looks more maneuverable, yellow doesn't look as maneuverable, so the yellow, I guess those are the frigates, the brigs here have the red, but it tells you like how many cannons. Now it's not necessarily exactly how many cannons, right, but it's like the equivalent in game terms of terms, how many dice you roll based on how effective the cannons are together as a firing unit. So this might actually be like a 20-gun boat, but its firepower is represented by 2 dice, and then it's got the ship speed. I think that's a morale down here in the corner. Your hit points, there's these little clips that you're going to clip out here, punch out, and they'll just slide along here. So you track, basically you can track everything right here on your card. The hit points, its combat values, morale, things of that nature. And looks like you've got 2 sides. Without knowing much more than that, I can't tell if that's supposed to be a completely different brig or it just happens to be the same brig on both sides of cards. So we'll figure that out later. But the cards themselves are pretty good. They feel a little more laminated than your average card. So I bet if you had a dry erase marker, I'm wondering if you could just draw on these for whatever reason. It doesn't look like you need to. I'm just thinking out loud. But we got several here for the different brigs. And then large merchant, large merchant, large merchant, large merchant. Okay, so even though all my sprues are frigate, I guess if you use one to represent a merchant, you've got it covered. And then there's 5th rate frigates for you to choose from. Wonderful. There's your ship data cards. And again, you got these little, they're not really cardboard, but there's your wake marker. Now I will say this is the one thing I've heard a lot of people complain about, the wake markers. Well, I can't say a lot of people, but it's not the most popular thing. I saw some people complain from Cruel Seas because you have to constantly moving the model to slide and use these wake markers to track speed and you know, I know some wargamers that try to touch the model as few times as possible, because when a game of inches and you know, measurement is important, every time you fiddle with the ship, you can actually shift it from where it's supposed to be on the table. And I know that bothers some people. So I've actually seen people now play on the YouTube where they don't even use these wake markers. They will have other ways of, or they'll put the wake marker and set it next to the ship. And I've seen people put like a little token or something that says, okay, this ship is on battle sails. And they just track the ship speed that way. Or if they have any extra clips, because I watched another video, somebody said every time they get a box, they end up getting so many of these clips. So if that's the case, one thing you could do with your excess of clips is use one to very carefully put it into clip mode, and then check this out. Now I have not seen anybody do this on a video, but this is my pro tip. If you don't like the wake marker on your table and fiddling with the miniature every time you want to move it, take your wake marker, take one of those unused clips. Yeah, I did rip this one. Thank you for including extra clips, because I did just bork this one. So anyway, what you could do without borking your own is just put the clip there, battle cells, stick it next to your ship, and now everybody knows that that particular ship is at full sails. Yeah, I have to fix this one. I tried to rip it. Anyway, there you go. There's my little contribution to the community. Just use the included items you have, and now you can keep track of your speed without having to put your wake marker on the ship, on the board, and constantly move stuff around. Yay! You're welcome, community. Alright. Then you have the Ratlines. Oops. Now I watched someone do a really nice video on rigging the ships, and they had some tips on how to apply these. They are a very thin kind of acetate, I think they called it. So you're going to cut them out and they like peel away from this backing. But it's a nice way to get all the fancy side rigging things. Just anyway. So there you go. Ratlines. Lots of flags. Lots and lots of frags. Lots of flags. Ooh, pirate flags. I think these are some of the communication flags for signal flags. Now, if they, I thought they had some nationality flags, because I saw people playing, they just stuck the nationality flag on the ship so they could represent different, you know, as you play, but this only got a couple. So anyway, since the ships can be generically used among the nations, I think that's one complaint I've seen from just a few people, is the ships aren't necessarily always matched to very specific ships. These are sometimes generic, or a way to tell that it's a very specific ship is, as far as the modeling goes, maybe they just put, you know, a fancy front, like, oh, well, this is this ship if you use that front. So depending on how you use your ships, I've seen people print out other little flags and not necessarily permanently attach the flag, but they stick that on the ship to say, okay, on this scenario, this ship is Swedish, here's the little Swedish flag, because this does not include all the flags for all the different nations. This is specifically looks like French, British in that regards. And another tip that I've learned from somebody is if you take your flags and then glue them to tin foil, you can then bend the flags in certain ways to make them look like they're very wavy, because paper in itself doesn't stay in a very wavy form. But if you can glue it or somehow affix it to tin foil and then cut it, you can then shape the flag into a position that you want. Little pro tip for you there. Then the sails. Now I was curious about these. These are not paper. This is a little thicker than, it's kind of a card. Oh, there's 3 here. So we'll see how they go. I don't really have much to say about these. I haven't tried to attach them to anything yet. So I've seen people where they lay the sails are flat on the ship. Like they just stick it flat sails. But sails are supposed to be bowed. So I'm going to play with it. And it looks like this is just thick enough that if you bow it yourself a little bit, when you attach it to your ship, you can make it look like it's catching the wind. I saw another person who when he rigged his ship, he didn't curve the sails, but when he had the rigging out, he just kind of laid them. They were still flat, but they kind of, anyway, I can't really describe it without showing it to you. But there you go, you got sails. So a lot of cardboard, a lot of little pieces here. I'm going to set that aside, because you also get, which I thought was a nice touch, a map. I'm not going to unfold it, but I thought this was nice. I don't know how big this is. I don't think this is a full 6x4, but if you don't have any type of blue fabric, at least they included a paper water map. That's actually kind of cool. I know I've heard some people say they didn't like it, so first thing they did was went out and bought blue cloth, but until you buy your blue cloth or have some other replacement, this is a very nice inclusion. So thank you for that. And the rule book. Now, I've not read the rule book, so I will not comment on the rule book. I just catch what I get from other people. And people said, oh, I found typos. I heard that the Cruel Seas rule book, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but some people were very unhappy with it. But I have not heard the same complaints from the Black Seas rule book. So either they did a better job with the catching typos and explaining rules, but I have not heard the same criticisms come from this book as I did with Cruel Seas. So very excited. Plus, the first part here, like a lot of games, is you have the basics. And yeah, I've heard some folks say, yeah, this game is too simple. But I've also heard once you start adding the additional rules, like the advanced rules, if you will, that the game starts to really feel like an Age of Sail game. Oh, so they had some additional rules. Now they got advanced rules. So I would say, if you're curious, try it out at least. I found this off of Miniature Market. I think I got this from Miniature Market, and with shipping, it was like $60. It's just a little bit cheaper than the suggested retail price. But you get a handful of ships, you get everything you need to actually play a game out of the box. And that's saying a lot. I get plenty of games where you buy the starter box and you get like half the amount of dice you need, or it feels like it's lacking. But this is a nice little book. This has got a lot of information in here. Very, very cool. Ooh, look at that. HMS Victory. I love cutaways. Ship's crew. So this book is a bunch of fluff in addition to some rules. There's fleet lists. Yeah, nice. So again, what I've heard is this is not necessarily a simulation game. You could call this a beer and pretzels sailing game. Oh yes, rigging the ship. I'll be doing this tomorrow. I'll see what I can film and maybe show you what it's like to try and put it together and do some rigging. Do a little painting tomorrow as well. But yeah, there's some sails there, some rigging. Yeah, we're gonna try it out. But anyway, yeah. So this might not be the simulation that you're looking for, but again, from all the people playing, yes, it's a game, but they seem to be having a lot of fun with it. So even if I don't get into a more hardcore simulation game, it'll be nice just to have a game with Age of Sail. Here's some cardboard. I'm not going to open this up because it's going to take me forever, but it's got some island overlays to stick down, and then your admin markers, some crew markers, swivel guns. I think these are things you can buy for your ship. Sturdy, yeah. Looks like some debris for the water, chain shots, so different types of shot you can use. Here's your measuring stick. One of these cardboards, I think in the middle, it's got a little turn gauge for the ship. You set it down and you can tell how far it moves. Because this looks like the marker from Cruel Seas, where you could measure turn degrees and whatnot. You'd have to pick the ship up, put this down, and a lot of people didn't like that. So I like that they included a little turn dial, or turn gauge that you stick at the back of the ship, and then you can rotate the ship towards, you know, where it's turning. Anyway, it looks like they made some changes from Cruel Seas. I think that's why this is popular. It's like took some complaints from Cruel Seas and improved on it, and now you have a game that I've not heard a lot of people complain about. So I'm very, very excited. Well, that's what comes in there. So you got your cardboard, you got a nice included map, which is fantastic. Rule book, which I'm going to leave out because I want to look at that. You then get your cardboard-ish pieces, playing cards. Well, not playing cards, but the cards that have this ship. You get your weight gauges, ratlines, more wake markers, and little slide gauges. You get some flags that you can use. You get sails that you can attach after you rig. Speaking of rigging, you got your models. You have thread for the rigging. You got your cotton to represent smoke and fire. Nice set of dice. You get a bunch of dice that you can roll. And you get 3 sprues of brigs. And you get 3 sprues of frigates. So 6 brigs, 3 frigates, or possibly if you play it right, you could have 2 frigates and a merchant ship, or whatever you want it to be. That's everything. And then the box lid. So I think a very, very good value for starting out in Age of Sail. And the ships don't look overly big compared, I mean, I think that you'll be able to, if you have a standard 6x4 table, I don't think you'll have any problems playing some Age of Sail, even in this little bit larger scale compared to some other games. So that's what's in the box and some of my thoughts. Thank you so much for checking it out. Again, if this is something you've done, or you have a preferred set of rules, or what are your thoughts, leave them in the comments. I do enjoy reading what y'all share. All right, thanks a lot. Take care.